and I had my first pumpkin spice latte of the season. Yeah, I love this so much. I think I want to give this book 5 stars. 5 stars, no notes. I loved this. Hello, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel. I'm filming this now because I realized I never filmed an intro for this reading vlog because, you know, I wasn't going to film another reading vlog in the month of September, but I found myself with about like 5 to 6 days of extra reading time. And because I didn't have any videos like scheduled or planned, I just decided to have a couple days where I just decided to mood read some books that I've been highly anticipating. And so in this video, I did end up finishing 3 books and I did have 1 DNF, but I also found 2 5-star new favorite books in this vlog, which is so crazy and so rare for me that that ever happens. In this video, I read a variety of different genres. I read a thriller, a literary thriller, a romance book, and kind of like a literary fiction book. I did pick up one book that has been sitting on my shelf for quite some time throughout the summer. Like, I've been really eager to get to this one. But then I also picked up a book that I just recently got when I was on my trip to Whidbey Island with my family. There's lots of book shopping in this vlog as well, and I did end up reading one of the books that I bought from a bookstore during this vlog. So you could say it's been a really great week of mood reading, and I mean, September in general has been a really great reading month for me. So let me send you back a couple days to when I started on the first thing. Hello, how's it going? I just wanted to check in for the first update because this morning I went to one of my local favorite like coffee / bakery shops and I had my first pumpkin spice latte of the season and it was just so good and so refreshing. I also decided to go and visit like a local bookstore. I have like a local used bookstore that I rarely ever go into because honestly it's kind of rare for me to find anything that I actually want there, but I was able to find this copy of Forget Me Not, so that's very cool because this is a romance that I've been hearing some great things about. This one was actually recommended to me when I was doing that video of like reading books that you think that I'll give 5 stars. So I was very intrigued by that because I've never read anything from Julie Soto before, but this one sounds like it's gonna be interesting. So I'm glad that they had a copy there. I mean, I did notice that this is actually an ARC copy. So like technically you're not supposed to sell these, but it was fine. It was only $6. Like I wanted to support the bookstore. So very happy about this find. I mean, hopefully this is one that I can read sooner rather than later. But anyway, I wanted to update you because I have started on All the Colors of the Dark and I got 176 pages into this while I was just sitting in the coffee shop. So I got all the way up to chapter 75. And I hate to come on here with like a really hot take or like a really unpopular opinion, but like I'm just not really enjoying this one that much if I'm being honest. This one is described as being more of a literary thriller. It takes place in 1975. We're following the story of this young boy named Patch who like a lot of his friends call him the pirate kid because he's like obsessed with pirates. And this story takes place in this small town where some of the local girls are going missing. And so then there's this girl named Misty who is the daughter of a very wealthy family and she's kind of like the next next targeted girl, and Patch is the one who ends up saving her. But in doing so, he ends up getting taken himself. And so right at the start of this book, you know, Patch is kidnapped and like a lot of the town is like grieving over it, but then people are like, well, don't act like he was such a saint because he was actually like a thief himself and he would like steal from people, and like, I don't know, they're acting like, oh, well, he wasn't that good of a kid anyways kind of attitude. And then we're also following from the perspective of this girl named Saint, who is Patch's closest friend. I don't know, something that I am liking about this, I guess, is that there are very short chapters. You know, like I'm already 75 chapters in. Most of the chapters are only like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 pages. Like it is a very quick moving story in terms of like the length of the chapters, which I do like. But I also feel like I am just really struggling to connect with these characters. I'm struggling to care. I'm struggling to get invested. I keep finding my attention is just like wandering while I'm listening to the audiobook. Like I can't seem to focus on anything that's happening in the story. And I think that's because I'm just finding the plot of this to be kind of boring. Like I'm not gonna lie, it just feels a little bit boring. It's a little bit slow moving because even though the chapters are short, which makes it feel like it's more fast paced, the story itself feels very slow and like nothing's happening. I also saw so many of my friends say that like the main mystery of this book gets resolved in the first like 100 pages, which does seem pretty true because I just read some really like intense things around the 100 page mark, and it seems like all of the mystery of the book has been resolved. And so I'm like, well, what are these next, you know, like 400 pages for? Like what's going on? And the rest of the book is just kind of like following the aftermath of that. And so many people say that their favorite thing about this book is the characters and like how much they connected with the characters, which is why I'm like, well, shit, because I'm not even really connecting with these characters much at all. And at this point, if like all of the action of the story has happened and is already done, then like that's no good, right? Because I'm already bored. You know, it's so unfortunate because I had the same opinion about The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Like that was another one of my really highly anticipated kind of like literary thriller type of books that I was really looking forward to this year. And I had like the same thing happen where I got like 150 to 200 pages into that one before I was like, yeah, I'm so bored. Like I have to DNF. Like I just don't care enough about what's happening. And I feel like that's the same thing that has happened to me with this one. I think I'm gonna end up DNFing this book because I just cannot even imagine myself trying to push through 600 pages about something that I'm so uninterested in, which is wild and like really unfortunate to say because this book has such good reviews on Goodreads. Like it's actually ridiculous. I think this book has an average of like 4.4 out of 5 or something like that. So many people are saying that this is their favorite book of the year. And you know, I have actually read the other book, We Begin at the End, from this author. So like I am familiar with this author's writing style, and I did like We Begin at the End. I mean, I think I did have some of the same complaints where I just said it was like too overly written and it was too long, and like I think this author really needs an editor. Maybe it works for other people. I'm just in the very small minority that like I just don't think the story is working for me personally. Maybe it's just not my kind of book, and I just have to be okay with that because everybody and their mom seems to be loving this and I want to understand it so badly, but unfortunately I just don't get it. Sadly, I think I will be DNFing this one at this point and moving on to the next thing because I don't want to fall into a reading slump, because I have so many other books on my TBR that I'm really excited about, and I genuinely feel like if a book's not pulling me in after like 170 pages, then like will it ever? So that's a bummer, but I'm sure there will be people in the comments telling me that this is like the best book of all time and that I need to finish reading it. So I'm so happy that this book seems to be working for everybody else. The next afternoon, and I wanted to update you because I have started on the next book that I plan to read, which is The Storied Life of AJ Fickry. Last night I got about 56 pages in, and I don't want to jinx it, but this is already giving me 5-star energy. Like I am really loving this, even more than I thought I would. I was really excited to read this because this is actually the same author as Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is a really popular book that I ended up thinking like it was okay. I think I gave it like 3 or 3.5 stars. Did like it, I just didn't love it the way that everybody else seemed seem to. But I know this book from this author is pretty well loved and pretty well known and pretty popular. I think it came out like 10 years ago. And so I've just been curious to read it, and I recently just bought this book earlier this month when I was on that trip with my family. I'm already loving the vibes of this so much because it's taking place on this little island, and we're following this character named AJ who is kind of like currently going through it because his wife has passed away like fairly recently, and now he's, you know, taking care of this bookstore all on his own. I think his bookstore was called something cute too, like Island Books or something like that. But you know, this main character AJ, he's kind of a bit of a grouchy human. You know, like he's definitely one of those characters that reads like a really grouchy, just like always in a bad mood and just kind of like an overall negative person. But I think that's also because of the life experiences that he's been dealing with lately. And also his character is supposed to be only 39 years old. So I don't know why he's reading like he's in his like 70s or 80s. Like he's reading like he's like an old lonely old man or something, but he is only supposed to be 39. So like I don't really totally buy that, to be honest. Like I don't know, he's reading like he's way older, like twice his age in my opinion. Yeah, in this story, you know, he's just dealing with a lot, you know, right off the bat, because not only is he still grieving over his wife that has passed away fairly recently, but then he's also, you know, worried about the bookstore and like if the bookstore is going to continue to be successful. And then he also had a recent situation happen where somebody stole a very rare book of his, and this book is supposed to be like valued at like $400,000 or something crazy like that on the market, and it got stolen from his house. And so yeah, you could say he's dealing with quite a bit right now at the start of this story. I just love though the way that this character has been talking about books and the way that he's like comparing his life right now to like a bad novel. There was like a flashback scene right at the beginning where we see the flashback of like him finding out that his wife has died, and like it's the police officer telling him, and he just keeps being like, oh my god, like you sound like a cop in a bad novel, like how is this my life right now? And I love too right at the beginning when there's like a bookseller that comes into his bookstore and they're trying to like sell him from a certain publisher or something like that, but they're like, what do you like in books? Because the last book sales rep person has recently died, so like she's taking over for him, and so she doesn't know his taste in books. And he's like, how about I tell you what I don't like? And then he goes on this whole like paragraph long rant about all the things that he doesn't like in books, when he says, I do not like postmodernism, post-apocalyptic settings, post-mortem narrators, or magical realism. I rarely ever respond to supposedly clever formal devices, multiple fonts, pictures where there shouldn't be. He says, I find literary fiction about the Holocaust or any other major world tragedy to be distasteful. Nonfiction only, please. I do not like genre mashups. Like he just goes on this whole list of like all the things that he hates in books, which like, okay, I like somebody that knows what they like and what they don't like in a book, you know, like it's very helpful. And so far I am really liking his character. I don't know why his character, he does remind me of like the old man in like A Man Called Ove or something like that, you know, where like he is kind of like grumpy and grouchy, but you can't help but like root for him, you know, and you can really like see his heart through all the grouchiness. And in general, I just really like the way that this one is written so far. Like I'm immediately feeling connected to this. And I just reached a point in the story, which I'm not going to tell you what happens because it doesn't say anything about this in the premise of this book, but I'm like, oh my god, no way. Like I did not see the book going in this direction or the story being about what I think it's about to be about. So I'm actually really excited. Like I feel like I'm really gonna end up loving this, and that makes me so happy. I mean, I'm only 50 pages in right now, but the book itself is only about 260 pages. So I'm very excited to continue reading this today because it's giving me all of the feelings so far. God, today has been a crazy day and it's going to continue to be a busy day for me. I mean, right now it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I just got home from going out with my sister and my mom, and my sister went wedding dress shopping this morning. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, dude, it was just so crazy and so surreal to like see my sister in a wedding dress. And she only ended up trying on 6 dresses before she found the one. We were literally only in there for like 40 minutes and she found the one that she wanted, and she ended up getting the dress today. Like, oh my god, it was so crazy. Me and my mom, we definitely cried a little bit. It was just so surreal to like see her in a wedding dress, you know, like it's just wow. It really makes everything feel more real, and like this is happening, and she looked so beautiful. Oh my god, like the dress that she picked, it could not have been a more perfect fit for her. So like that was really nice. And then afterwards we went out to lunch and we just kind of like spent the whole day together. And now I'm getting ready because in about 2 hours, I'm gonna be getting ready to go out to dinner with one of my friends, Liz, who's an old coworker from the restaurant that I used to work at. And I haven't seen this girl in like over a year. So it's gonna be so nice to get the chance to catch up with her. And it's just been a really like busy day of like doing a lot of things, a lot of socializing today. So I hope at some point during all of the madness of today, I can get the chance to read some more of this because I am really loving it. Oh my god, I'm loving it so much. So bougie. Look at your fries. Oh my god. Honestly, this drink is cute. It's the dried. It's so cute. Hello good afternoon. I wanted to update you because it is the next day. Last night, me and my friend Liz ended up going out to dinner and it was so nice to catch up with her. I swear she's like one of those friends for me that like, even if we haven't seen each other in over a year, as soon as we talk again, it's like no time has passed at all. And I just love friendships like that where you just like get right back into it. And I just adore her so much. So it was really great last night to catch up with her. And then last night before bed, I was able to read a little bit more of this. I got up to page like 130 last night. And then this morning while I was, you know, eating my breakfast, I actually finished reading this. And oh my God, dude, I loved this so much. I saw on the back one of the blurbs that describes this book. It says this novel has humor, romance, a touch of suspense, but most of all love. And I feel like that's really true because I feel like at the end of the day, this is like one of those books that's really character driven, you know, like the story is mainly about AJ and like his life. And this is the kind of story that really like spans several years of AJ's life. And you know, like I mentioned in my last update, he is a bit of like a grouchy character, at least at the start of this book, but it is one of those stories where like he really starts to open himself up to like the idea of love, and it's just really beautiful and really wholesome. I mean, with quotes like this where he's like, fucking love, he thinks, what a bother. It's completely gotten in the way of his plan to drink himself to death and to drive his business to ruin. The most annoying thing about it is that once a person gives a shit about one thing, he finds he has to start giving a shit about everything. I just really loved this so much. Like I really connected with the characters in this book, and I think the characters are the reason why I ended up loving this book as much as I did. I also think though that this is just the perfect book for a book lover, you know, because like this book is essentially a book about books and a book about people who love books. I mean, gosh, with quotes like this where it says bookstores attract the right kind of folk, good people. And I like talking about books with people who like talking about books. I like paper, I like how it feels, and I like the feel of a book in my back pocket. I love how a new book smells. There's just so many quotes like this that are about these characters just like gushing over the idea of books, you know? And it might sound so cheesy to say, but like I just love following books that are about people who love books and that are about like books about books in general is one of my favorite things to read about. I love the fact that AJ, you know, owns his own bookstore, this cute little like island books. It's like the only bookstore in their little town. And I just loved it. I loved this little town. I loved all the people that lived on this little town. There was even some like shocking, well, not like shocking things in the plot, but I guess just like things that I didn't see coming that I was like, oh shit, like I really didn't see it coming and I didn't see the plot going in that direction, and I feel like it added so much more to the story. Also, the ending of this book packed so much heart into that ending that like it nearly brought me to tears like multiple times. Like it was just so sweet and so beautiful. I just love the characters in this so much, like way more than I was expecting to. I also think this writing just has this like coziness to it that makes this like the perfect book to like read right before you're going to bed or something, because I read this, you know, right before I went to bed 2 nights in a row. And it was just very comforting to listen to this right before going to bed, because I do think that this book is a lot about, you know, human connection, especially when humans are going through some of the hardest times in their lives, and how important it is to like rely on other people and reach out to other people, and how having other people in your life can have such a good, huge impact on your life. And I loved that about this. And I think if you're the kind of person that needs something that's kind of cozy and comforting and one of those like feel good kind of like literary fiction stories that are really character driven, I think you would love this. If you love books that are about books and about characters who love books, I think you would love this. I also think if you like Frederick Bachman's writing style, I do think you could like this as well. I don't know why, it did remind me of a lot of his books. Yeah, I love this so much. I think I want to give this book 5 stars, because I do think that this is something that I want to come back to in the future. Like I can see myself rereading this. I can see myself thinking about these characters for such a long time. And there are so many beautiful quotes that I can pull from this book that I want to read to you right now. And I feel like all of those things are big signs to me that like I need to give this book 5 stars because of how much I loved it. And so like, wow, what a great feeling to find a 5-star new favorite, like a book that I want to reread in the future. That's so crazy. I also just love the fact that I actually bought this book while I was on vacation with my family, and I went to this like little indie bookstore called Moonraker Books that was on Whidbey Island in Washington, and that's where I bought this book. Like that feels even extra special because, you know, this whole book is about a tiny little bookstore on an island, and like that just feels very fitting that that's where I bought the book from. So like, wow, what an excellent choice I made, and I had no idea at the time that I made such an excellent choice. Okay, hello. It is a little bit later in the afternoon, but I wanted to update you because I was just at the gym and I've been listening to the audiobook for Till Death Do Us Part. And this is a thriller that I've been pretty interested in reading because I read a book from this author fairly recently. The book The Girls Are All So Nice Here is the other book that I've read from this author, and I did enjoy that one quite a bit. And this one, Till Death Do Us Part, has been pretty interesting so far. I actually got 42% of the way into it. And in this story, we're following this character named June. Right at the start of this book, she talks about how she got married to this guy named Josh Kelly, and like they were really in love. And then literally only a week after they were married, he sent her this text that said, "Going for a quick swim," with a little heart. And then he ended up dying after that, and the police said that he ended up drowning, but she is like convinced that he did not send that message because he like never sent emojis in his messages, and I don't know, it just seemed kind of off to her. So now the main story is taking place 10 years later in 2022, and Josh at this point has been dead for 10 years. She's kind of like moved on with her life, and at this point in time in 2022, she's with this new guy named Kyle, and they've been together for like 6 years at this point, and now they're gonna be getting married in 2022. Then the main like thrilling thing that's happening in this book is that she thinks that she sees Josh, and she like starts to wonder if maybe he's not really dead. Like maybe she's starting to think that he probably faked his own death, and so she's trying to get to the bottom of like what really happened. And then not only do we get June's perspective in 2022, which is like the present day chapters, but then in flashback chapters in the year 1999, we follow from the character Bev, who is actually Josh's mom, and we kind of get to see about like what was going on with his family, because his family actually owns this winery that's in California and like Napa Valley, and they own this winery that's called the Golden Grape or something like that. And that was always something that she had connected to him with, because now our girl June in the year of 2022, she actually owns her own winery as well. But it's interesting because in the flashback chapters with Bev in like 1999, you get to read about like a little bit about Josh's like childhood and teenagehood, and they keep talking about some kind of like incident that happened with Josh, but they haven't really like gotten into more detail. Like they're being really vague about something that happened with Josh growing up. And like in Bev's chapters, you're mostly reading about how like her husband David was like a cheater and how he like ruined their family. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I thought Bev's, you know, chapters were kind of boring because it kind of just was reading like marital family drama for the most part, and it kind of is still reading that way, but there was definitely something in the more recent chapters that I just read that really pulled me back into Bev's chapters. So I am liking the fact that we're going back and forth between these two perspectives and these two timelines. And so the main premise at this point of like what's happening in the story is that our main character June, our protagonist, she decides to go back to Napa Valley, California, and she's trying to find the winery that Josh's family owns, because now that she thinks that he's alive, she's trying to find like evidence that he's still alive, so she's going back to the winery. And it has been interesting. I actually do really like the setting of this book of the wineries. I think if you're the kind of person that enjoys, you know, going out to wineries and like discussing the different like taste of all the different wines, then I think you could really enjoy this because there's been a lot of that. But I also do feel really connected to both timelines now, and I think that this author's doing a good job at like every time she ends a chapter, it ends with like just a little bit of a baby like cliffhanger or something that keeps you like wanting to get back to that part. And I like the alternating timelines because it's making the story go really quick. I guess my only complaint is that sometimes the chapters feel a little bit long, especially like Beverly's chapters, and I wasn't as invested in her chapters in the first few chapters, but hers have definitely gotten a lot more interesting. So yeah, anyways, it's going well so far. I think I'm going to try to finish this one on audio tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna read any more today because tonight me and my sister are actually gonna host this like code names game night on my Patreon tonight, so that should be very fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be my first time ever hosting a code names game night, so I hope that everything goes well. And then tomorrow I'm actually gonna be driving down south to go and visit my friend Brittany. We're gonna like spend the whole day together, and one of the things we wanted to do is go to Half Price Books. So I actually like loaded up my car today with all the stuff that I want to take to Half Price Books to sell, and so hopefully I'll be able to do some book shopping tomorrow at Half Price Books. We're gonna be going to the movies to see the new Jungkook documentary, which is like the main reason for this trip, because Jungkook from BTS, you know, like he just came out with the documentary recently, and you know, me and Brittany are huge BTS fans, so we're gonna be going to see that, and it should be a really great day. And so hopefully on the drive down there, since I have about an hour and a half drive tomorrow, hopefully I'll be able to finish this book on the drive. It's not over until it's over. I want to hear no reds. Come on, Blues, what do you think? Roll, 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 roll. Okay, everyone's guessing roll. Whoa! Oh no! My blue team is amazing. Wow. Oh my gosh, girl already pressed it! Yes, blue team wins! Wow! Wow, we slay that so hard. Yes, red team! Oh my god, you guys crushed it! Sit down. Yes! I am amazed
but
by
watch
you guys.
them get this one.
I am amazed by you guys. You just did that. You guessed all 3. I'm so proud. It's the only word I could say without having them guess a different word.
I think.
I'm
mainly joking.
Did I lose you? Did I lose you?
Saloon, LOL, saloon. The fuck is that? Gavin said. God
fuck
damn
is
it.
that? Final guess? Hello, I am back home and I wanted to update you because some things have happened. I'm sorry I was like not the best at vlogging when I went down to go and see my friend Brittany yesterday. I was able to sell all of the books in my car and they were really quick. Like they literally took less than 30 minutes, which was crazy because they normally take a lot longer to do that. And then the only book that I ended up getting while I was at the Half Price Books is actually this one called The Traders. This is one that I actually saw on Goodreads a few months ago because, you know, recently I've been obsessed with that TV show called The Traders that's on Peacock. It's like a reality game show that is very, very fun, and I know that this book has nothing to do with that show, but like, does this not give the same vibes as The Traders, like the actual show? I think it does. And so this one kind of caught my eye on Goodreads a few months ago, and I was like, I mean, maybe I'll read it, and then I saw it there for only $7.99, and I had a 10% off coupon, so I was like, I mean, let's just go for it. Like, it looks fun. And this one is a thriller where we're following these 6 characters who find a thick cream envelope on their doorstep. It says inside is an invitation to spend 24 hours in a crumbling manor house and be in with the chance to win a portion of $1 million. The catch is that Beechwood Castle was the site of one of the most horrific murders in modern history. So it says 6 people walk into the house, one of them is an imposter, all of them are traitors, which of them will survive the night? This does sound fun, I'm not gonna lie, this does sound very entertaining, so I'm glad that I picked up this copy. Anyway, yesterday ended up being a really fun day, you know, just hanging out with my friend Brittany. I got to try Mochi Nut, which is like a new donut spot, and it's really cool because they're kind of like Crumble, where like every week they have like different flavored donuts that you can do. And so I highly recommend checking out Mochi Nut if you have one in your area. Oh my god, it was so good. And I actually really loved the mocha flavored donut. Like that ended up being my favorite, and I didn't think that I would even like that one. And so I had so much fun with that. Like I love places like that have like rotating flavors every week, so you always get to try something new. I think it's so fun. And then the reason why I wanted to update you is because last night as I was driving on the way home, I ended up finishing listening to the audiobook for Till Death Do Us Part. And I've got to say, like, I really did end up enjoying this one, but I'm also torn on like how I want to rate this book because, you know, right after the last time that I updated you, there was a plot twist, I guess, revealed around the 50% mark that I was like, oh my god, duh. Like, I was kind of frustrated because I was like, that is so obvious. Like, is that even a plot twist? I don't know if it was meant to be a plot twist or not, but you know, it was saved until the 50% halfway point, and I thought it was meant to be like kind of a reveal. And I was just kind of disappointed because I was like, okay, that is like the most obvious thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, of course, that's what's happening. Then, you know, as the story continued, I was like, okay, like I was still interested, I was still invested. I think it's a really good sign when a thriller can like absolutely capture my attention the entire time that I'm on a long drive, because I hate when like a thriller starts to get boring when I'm only listening to it on audio and it's like I have nothing else to do, you know, while I'm driving. Like, it's the only thing that I'm doing is listening to it. And I feel like this book, it really did like hold my attention, and there were so many moments where like a chapter would end and I'd be like, wait, what? And then it would like cut to the next, you know, perspective, and I'd be like eager and like itching to get back to the point of view that I was just reading from, because I thought one timeline was like so much more interesting than the other. I don't know, I was personally a little bit more invested in June's timeline for most of the story, because, you know, as I mentioned, we are following June's timeline like in the present day, but then we do get the flashback chapters of Bev. And like, don't get me wrong, both of the timelines ended up being very interesting. Like, there was some stuff that happened in Bev's timelines that I personally was not expecting, and I thought it was like really interesting and really juicy and actually added like so much to the story for me. But I think just in general, general, I did enjoy June's chapters more throughout the story. Then there were 2 different twists at the very end of this book that I did not see coming, and I was pretty shocked by. Like, one of them really got me. I mean, one of them I feel like was kind of obvious and like I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And then the second twist was one that I did not see coming at all, and I was kind of surprised by. And then the epilogue of this book, like, are you fucking kidding me? The epilogue, I was literally sitting there with like my jaw like hanging open while I was driving, like, oh my god. Like, I just couldn't believe that that is what ended up happening at the end of this book. Like, I loved it. I loved the epilogue of this. So like, ratings wise, I don't know exactly how I want to rate this. I'm kind of torn between rating it like 3.5 stars and like 4 stars, because I do think that I have mostly positive things to say about it. Like, I don't think it's like a new all-time favorite thriller, because it didn't really give me that feeling. So I know it's not a 5-star, but like, I'm just torn between like, is it a 3.5? Is it a 4? I don't know. I really liked this though, like so much more than I was expecting to. Maybe I do have to give it a 4, because I do think that I liked this one more than the other book that I've read from this author. So yeah, maybe I will end up giving this one 4 stars. It was a good time. I was really surprised. So that's exciting. I mean, it's always a good time to find a new thriller that I can recommend. Today is Sunday now, and I have literally like 0 motivation to do anything today. Like, this morning I was going to make breakfast, but then like, we're so out of groceries here at the apartment, so I was like, fuck it, like I'm too lazy to get groceries today. So I just went to like my local Woods coffee shop and like got a breakfast sandwich. I've been like really productive, don't get me wrong. Like, I've been doing a ton of like scheduling all this different stuff for Patreon and trying to finalize like my October content plans. I mean, later this week I'm gonna be announcing a really fun Patreon exclusive readathon that's gonna be happening in the month of October. It's this readathon called Short and Spooky, and like, it's kind of named after the Sabrina Carpenter album Short and Sweet, but it's called Short and Spooky, and it's gonna be so cute. And I'm hosting it basically like the last weekend of October on like the 25th, 26th, and the 27th, and the only prompts for this readathon is to like read something short and read something spooky. And I know I'm gonna be trying to read any like horror novellas or anything that's like short horror that I can get my hands on for this readathon, and I'm just so excited. So I have been doing a lot of planning today. I've been getting a lot of stuff ready for that upcoming readathon and just making sure everything is ready to go for the announcement. But I also did want to update you that I think I'm gonna go ahead and jump into Forget Me Not as my next read for this video, because, you know, this is the romance book that I just picked up at the store the other day, and I realized that I do have this on audio from Libro, and I've literally only read the first chapter, and I'm only 20 pages into this book, but I'm already loving it. Like, I love this so much. I mean, I don't know anything about this except for the fact that we're following this main character who is a wedding planner in Sacramento, and like, the first chapter was just so entertaining because you're just following this girl as she's like putting out all of these fires at this wedding. You know, like, there's all these problems coming up and she's having to like problem solve basically right on the spot, and it's just entertaining. Like, I don't know, I really liked that first chapter. I'm already really connected to her character. I feel like the writing in this, I'm really gonna vibe with the writing style. Like, just from that first chapter alone, I'm picking up so many good vibes. So I think I'm gonna start reading this one today, and then tomorrow during the day, I think I am gonna go ahead and like go grocery shopping and do all of the things that I need to do. How's it going? It is the next morning. I just thought I'd do a quick update because I just hit page 113 of Forget Me Not. I just decided to, you know, drive down here this morning and pick up an acai bowl because I was like, why not? I'm gonna be in the area anyways because I need to go and pick up some groceries. And you know, whenever I have to do a big grocery run, I always have to drive down to Winco because they just have like the best prices compared to all the other grocery stores out here. Anyways, I've still been listening to Forget Me Not and I'm really enjoying this book. Our main character, her name is Emma. It's kind of like Emma, but with an A in the front, Emma. And I love the fact that she's a wedding planner. Like, I don't know if it's just because, you know, like, my sister is currently planning her wedding, and, you know, my sister's wedding is gonna be next September. So I feel like I've been hearing a lot of, like, the behind the scenes of, like, how difficult it is to plan a wedding, you know, and, like, how you really have to, like, think about the budget and, like, what you can afford for each different vendor that you're gonna hire and, like, all these different things. And so reading about Emma's job as a wedding vendor has just been, like, really interesting and, like, really entertaining. entertaining. I feel like so far this book has been just as much about like the romance between these two as it has been about, you know, her job as a wedding planner. And like we are reading a lot about the different like obstacles that she's had to overcome as a wedding planner and like different things that she's been able to pull off last minute for these couples. It's just really fascinating. Like, I don't know, I am loving reading about her job. I think it's so interesting. I also love that we are getting like both of their perspectives in this book, because we do get Emma's perspective in the present day as she's like wedding planning and stuff, but then we do get Elliot's perspective in flashbacks to like a number of years ago when they had actually, you know, met. And so we kind of get the story of like what had happened previously between them. And what's really cool about Elliot's character is the fact that his family owns a flower shop. And so they kind of are both like in the wedding business together, which is also an element of the story that I think is really entertaining. And so he does like a ton of flowers for weddings and things like that. And that's actually the reason why they have to connect again in the future chapters, because she ends up getting hired by these like really fancy clients, like really rich clients who want the best of the best. And so she knows that she's gonna have to like work with him again with like his flower shop. I'm also too, like, I'm just loving the two girls that they're working on this wedding for right now. Their characters have just been like really interesting so far as well. And I don't know, I'm really liking all of the characters in this book so far. I'm loving reading about like the wedding planning in general and like trying to plan a wedding in such a short amount of time for very rich clients. I just think it's very interesting, like very entertaining to read. And so I am loving this. I'm gonna continue listening to this today. I mean, like I said, I have to go pick up groceries and then I should be able to head back home. Hello, I'm back. I just took a quick walk outside and it was so lovely out today, and I just finished reading Forget Me Not, and like, are you fucking serious, dude? Like 5 stars, no notes. I loved this. You know, it's so crazy because I think it was my friend Justin actually who recommended me this book. I remember Justin's recommendation for this book earlier this year when I was doing that video for like reading books that you think that I'll give 5 stars. And I remember that my friend Justin recommended this book and I wasn't able to get around to it for that video, but like, oh my god, I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. Like, I did not think that this was gonna be a 5 stars for me. This is definitely one of my favorite romance books that I've read this year, and this is one of those romance books that just checks every single box for me with things that I love in romance and what I'm looking for in romance. I mean, gosh, I talk about pretty often how sometimes like the steamy scenes in romance, especially when I'm listening to them on audio, I can be like, oh my god, eye roll and like just skip ahead, and like I find them so cringy. Dude, the steamy scenes in this book, oh my god, I was eating that shit up. I was like, give me more, tell me more, like I want to hear all about it. Like, that rarely ever happens for me. Honestly, like the writing in this, it did kind of remind me of like Ali Hazelwood at times. Like, if you had told me that this was written by Ali Hazelwood, I would be like, yeah, like that makes sense, because it has like a very similar style to her, and I don't know exactly how to explain that. I mean, I did see at the start of this book, this author talks about how she used to write fan fiction for like 5 years before she wrote this book, and how she used to actually write a lot of, you know, Star Wars fan fiction, and especially involving like Adam Driver, which is very interesting because Ali Hazelwood always talked about how she initially wrote The Love Hypothesis as like inspiration from like that same character played by Adam Driver. So I'm like, dude, okay, like if this was inspired by like fan fiction, or if this was inspired by that character, what is his name, Rilo, that Adam Driver plays, like I don't even care. I am here for this. This is my first book ever from this author too, and I'm really excited because I know she just had another romance book published this year, because this one came out last summer, I think. And so now I'm even more excited to read more from this author because I really click with her writing. Like, I thought her writing in this book was so good because not only were the characters was really good too. Like, I really loved Emma and Elliot, both as individuals. I mean, I loved her and like how passionate she was about her job and what she was doing. I loved her like story about how her mom has been married like 16 different times, and like because of that she never really desired a wedding for herself. And I love like his story about how like he's running this flower shop, you know, and I love how he has all of these different tattoos of all these different flowers. I just feel like they both had really great vibes as individuals, and they like matched each other very well. I think I'm like surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did, because I do think this is the kind of romance that is a little bit more steamy. They're definitely having a situation where they're just kind of like hooking up for a while, and it's like, are we together? Are we not together? Like in the past chapters. And usually I find that like so annoying in romance books where it's just like hookup scene after hookup scene. But I feel like this story, there was so much plot. There was so much more happening in the story that kept me invested, like all of the drama with the wedding. I feel like if you're the kind of person that enjoys reading about weddings in your romance books, then I feel like you would definitely love this. You know, because she's a wedding planner, like so much of the story is about her doing this wedding for these two girls that are like famous. I can't remember if they said that she's only like social media famous, like she's an influencer. I think she is, like one of the girls is an influencer. And so this is like a really big wedding, and they're putting in a lot of budget and a lot of money into this wedding. And so it was really entertaining reading about her character as she's trying to like navigate wedding planning for them. And then also like with his situation with like the flower shop and like them having to work together again after so many years of like not speaking to each other. It was just interesting. Like, I don't know, I really liked the tension that was, you know, existing between them throughout the whole book. I also appreciate the fact that the third act conflict in this book, you know, like, because we always get to a point in the book where there's some kind of conflict or like some kind of reason why they can't be together yet. I thought the third act conflict was done so well, and it all felt so realistic to me, because I feel like sometimes in romance books like this, some of these third act conflicts just feel so dumb and unnecessary and just like one more obstacle for them to get through before they can be together. But I don't know, I really liked the ending of this and the way that it all wrapped up. And even that final chapter, like that epilogue chapter, oh my god, I was like, that is precious. Like the way that the story ended on that final line, I almost like squealed out loud. Like I was so giddy from reading this book today. These characters actually made me giddy, okay? It doesn't happen very often, but this is why I read romance books. It's to experience this feeling that I just had reading this one. And so I loved this so much, and I feel like I can tell that this author has previously written fan fiction, and I mean that as a compliment. Because I feel like in fan fiction, something that I like about fan fiction that I don't often see in romance books is like steamy scenes that are actually well written and like interesting. I don't know why I tend to struggle with that in like real romance books that are being published, but for some reason in fan fiction, the steamy scenes are so much more interesting. And I feel like this author knows how to write a good steamy scene, okay? But yeah, I loved this. I even started tabbing like halfway through. Like this is a book that I can see myself rereading in the future. Like I definitely want to come back to this. That's how much I loved it. And I know that that's a great sign. I cannot believe that this video ended up going as well as it did. I mean, the fact that I just had 2 5-star books in this video, like damn, maybe I should be mood reading more often. Like that's crazy. That never happens for me. Like rarely ever do I even get 1 5-star book in a vlog, but to have 2 back to back like that, like that's crazy. So yeah, I highly recommend checking out Forget Me Not if you're in need of a good romance. I would also love to know from anybody who has read the new book from this author. I would love to know if you think that I would enjoy that one as well. I think that one involves characters who are like involved in music or something. It looks really interesting, and I'm definitely gonna plan to pick it up after how much I loved this. My September wrap up should be the next video that you're gonna be seeing from me after this one, and it will hopefully be including all of the books that I'm planning to read this upcoming weekend for my Screaming Color readathon that I'm hosting on Patreon. That's gonna be happening on September 28th and the 29th over on Patreon, so I'm gonna be reading a ton of books this weekend that have all black on the cover. And it should be a good time, and I'm planning to at least read like at least 3 books this weekend, so make sure to check out my September wrap up if you want to hear my thoughts on all the books I'll be reading for that readathon. And if you've read any of the books that I read during this video, you'll have to let me know what your thoughts are on them. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!